Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. This is a B2 level grammar lesson. Today we're going to continue talking about the third conditional and using the construction should have to criticize past actions. So let's talk about honesty. We all tell lies from time to time. No one is honest all of the time. And these are some questions that you can answer in the comments. When is it acceptable to tell a lie? Is it acceptable to tell a lie to someone because we don't want that person to feel sad or upset? And is it acceptable to tell lies to children? Now, most of us think it's not necessary to be honest all of the time. Take a look at the percentage of people who think it's acceptable to lie in certain situations. It's okay to tell a lie to a child, especially if the lie will prevent the child from injury or harm. 78% say always, 16% sometimes, 6% never. It's okay to tell a lie to a friend or family member if the lie prevents the person from injury or mental harm. 34% said always, 44% said sometimes, and 22% said never. It's okay to tell a lie to someone if it stops you from getting in trouble and no one gets hurt. 30% said always, 56% said sometimes, and 14% said never. It's okay to tell a lie to someone you will never see again. 68% said always, 30% said sometimes, 2% said never. And it's okay to tell a lie to a police officer to stop yourself from getting in trouble. 40% said always, 50% said sometimes, and 10% said never. So Jackie has two children, Philip 11 and Marguerite 7. Jackie plans to take them to the amusement park today. So you can pause the video and read on your own, or you can follow along as I read. Like all siblings, Philip and Marguerite sometimes get along and sometimes they argue. Since this morning, Philip and Marguerite have been arguing. Jackie is tired of asking them to behave. Jackie sees Marguerite kick Philip and tells them, "That's it. If you don't stop this behavior immediately, we're not going to the amusement park." Jackie says this because she is frustrated. She still plans to take her children to the amusement park. So parents sometimes tell lies or say a hollow threat to their children, especially when parents want children to change their behavior. Can you think of a time when your parents said something like Jackie did? And you can share that in the comments. So remember that we use the third conditional for an imagined or unreal state or event in the past. Jackie says, "If I hadn't lied to my children, they would have continued acting badly." So Jackie lied to her children, and then the children stopped their bad behavior. A third conditional describes an impossible situation, but because it describes something in the past that did not occur. In a third conditional, we express an imagined past. We use the past perfect in the if clause and would have plus the past participle in the main clause. So here's some examples. If you had told him all the facts, he would have gotten angry. It's good that you didn't say anything. If they hadn't called me, I wouldn't have known they were coming to town. I'm so glad they called. Could have plus past participle or might have plus the past participle can appear in the main clause. Like would have plus the past participle, they are used to express a future possibility in the past. If I'd known Mike was in town, he could have stayed at our place. Josephine might have become a lawyer if she hadn't studied medicine. Alright, so now you can pause the video, complete the third conditionals using the past perfect and would, could, or might, and then restart the video when you're ready to see the answers. Okay, number 1, if we had arrived on time, we could have caught the 12:50 train. Number 2, if you hadn't fallen asleep during the episode, you would have found out who the bad guys were. Number 3, if I had known Karthik and Leah were going to the dinner party, I wouldn't have gone. Number 4, if he hadn't sent text messages while driving, he might not have had a car accident. Number 5, if you had studied harder, you could have performed better on the exam. Number 6, if she had checked her essay before handing it in, there wouldn't have been so many careless errors. Number 7, if you hadn't told a lie, Mrs. Agnes wouldn't have known that we missed the bus to school. Now we're in trouble. And number 8, if I hadn't gotten that steak, I wouldn't have gotten sick. So now read the introduction to a short article and answer the questions. You can pause the video and read on your own or follow along as I read. Start with some vocabulary words. Hypothesis is a starting point for an investigation. Conduct an activity is to carry out or do an activity. And evaluate is to form an idea about something. For a long time, moral philosophers and psychologists have been interested in the study of honesty and self-interest in an academic setting. There are many contrasting hypotheses about the situations and factors which cause people to lie. In 2018, Dr. Phillips conducted a study that was designed to evaluate students' academic honesty in a situation where there was limited to no chance of getting caught. It looks like a classmate is cheating on a test. So what might happen if she gets caught? And you can share your ideas again in the comments. In short, Dr. Phillips wanted to know how many people would be dishonest if those people knew they would not be caught. The study was conducted by a group of first-year university students in an Introduction to Psychology course. The students in the course were given an extremely difficult quiz, resulting in no student scoring higher than 50 out of 100. This was unusual for the students, as on all quizzes prior, the class average had been 75 out of 100. The quiz results were handed back to the students with a handwritten grade. A week later, the quiz results were made available to students online via the Institute's online student portal, as is usually done. For each student, the online grade was reported as 25 points higher than the handwritten grade and the student had received in class. The study looked at the student response to the inaccurate score report. So why were the students given a difficult quiz? Well, as part of the experiment. And in short, a week after receiving the handwritten grade, every student received their grade online. The online grade was higher than the written grade. So in your opinion, how did the students respond? What might they have done? And you can put your answer to that in the comments. So what should the students have done? Would the students accept the higher grade, online grade, or would they investigate the issue further via their professor? What should the students have done? And if you had been in this study, what would you have done? And you can answer those questions in the comments. We use should have plus the past participle to be critical of someone's past behavior. In my opinion, the students should have reported the higher grade to their professor immediately. In your opinion, what should the students have done? We don't always like or agree with people's actions. Use should have plus the past participle to express disagreement or displeasure. My back hurts this morning. Again, you should have gone to the doctor about this a long time ago. You complain every day, but you do nothing to fix the problem. I got a bad grade on my essay. That doesn't surprise me. You should have studied harder. You played video games all semester. Megan is upset with me. Well, you shouldn't have shouted at her. You need to learn to speak calmly to people. Alright, all the students received an online grade that was 25 points higher than their handwritten grade. So we're going to listen to Dr. Phillips talk about the students' responses. Listen to the first part of the recording and complete the percentages.
Let's discuss the results. The students fell into 3 groups. In the first group, almost 70% of students checked their online scores and did nothing. The remaining students were divided equally into 2 groups. 15% of the students checked their score and reported the discrepancy to their professor, and 15% never logged in to check their score.
Okay, so the percentages here are 70%, 15%, and 15%. So what do you think surprised Dr. Phillips? And now think about the students who received high or low grades. Which group was more honest? And you can put your answers again in the comments to generate some conversation. Now Dr. Phillips will talk about which groups reported the discrepancy. So you're going to listen and answer the questions.
Surprisingly, the study found that the students in the class with the highest marks on previous exams were the least likely to report the error. This could be explained by the hypothesis that these students are the most concerned with receiving high grades. However, the students that were most likely to report the error were the next highest scoring students, students with average marks between 85 and 92. The students who typically receive the lowest marks in the class didn't report the error, one reason being that they were the least likely to log in and check their grade.
Okay, so according to the study, which students were the least likely to report the error? It was D, the students with the highest marks. According to the hypothesis, which of these sentences is true? It's A, the students who are the most worried about receiving high grades were the least likely to report the error. And according to Dr. Phillips, which of these statements is true? It's B, students who generally receive the lowest marks were the least likely to log in and check their grade. At the end of the semester, the results of the study were shown to the students. And again, you can answer these questions in the comments. How do you think the students reacted? How did the students feel? And what do you think they might have said when they heard the results? Remember that in an academic study, the results would have been anonymous. That means that no one would have known who took which action. Now we're going to read the direct speech, and there are 4 examples of third conditionals. So student W says, if I hadn't known it was an experiment, I would have done the same thing. Student X, I would have fixed the mistakes if I had made it. Student Y, I would have reported it if other students had mentioned the issue. And student Z, if I had noticed, I would have told the professor. So we're going to listen to the recording, and you'll choose which 3 examples you hear in the recording.
The results were shown at the end of the semester to the students. Most of the students were embarrassed by their actions and felt like they should have been honest. One student stated that he thought it was an experiment. However, he claims that he would have done the same thing if he hadn't believed it was an experiment. Students expressed many explanations for their actions. One student stated that if she had made the mistake, she would have fixed it. But because someone else made the mistake, she should benefit. Another student insisted that she checked the score but had lost the paper copy, so she didn't notice the difference. She claimed that if she had noticed, she would have told the professor. Unfortunately, in a world where so many people lie, it's hard to know if this student is telling the truth.
All right, so the 3 that were mentioned were student W, student X, and student Z. And how did most students feel about their actions? Well, it said that most of them were embarrassed. Now, you can pause the video and complete each sentence with would have, could have, or should have. And then you can restart the video when you're ready to check your answers. So if I had known you were coming to town, I could have booked our favorite restaurant. Why didn't you tell me you were coming? Number 2, why haven't you fed the dog yet? You should have done it hours ago. Number 3, we would have had a picnic today if the weather hadn't been so bad. Number 4, if Tom hadn't met Diane at college, they wouldn't have started their business and become famous entrepreneurs. Number 5, listen, I'm sorry about last night. If I'd known that John was at the party, I wouldn't have come. You know we don't like each other. Number 6, wow, if we'd known you were a vegan, we could have prepared something else. Why didn't you let me know? Number 7, you shouldn't have spoken to William like that, especially in front of his friends. You need to apologize. And number 8, we could have bought tickets at a much cheaper price if you told us earlier about your wedding date. So we can also use the past perfect continuous in the if clause of a third conditional. And here are some examples. If he hadn't been looking at his phone, he wouldn't have stumbled and fallen. If you'd been listening, you would have understood the instructions. I would have come to your party if I hadn't been working. So now try to make your own third conditional statements based on the information provided. And here's an example. Joey forgot his mom's birthday. He didn't buy her a gift. If Joey had remembered his mom's birthday, he would have bought her a gift. And so you can make your own third conditionals, put those in the comments, and if you would like some feedback. And here are a few more for additional practice. And again, you can write your third conditional statements in the comments. Now make an appropriate response using should have plus a past participle. The first one's done as an example. Leo didn't finish his homework. What did his teacher say? Leo, you should have done your homework. It's important. So again, you can do these on your own. Read each of the situations and then write your response using the should have plus past participle sentence structure, and you can put those in the comments. And here are a few more for additional practice. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Please like, subscribe, share, be sure to participate in the comments, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.